In 2025, holding cash could be the worst mistake you make. While many people think it's the safest way to protect their wealth, the truth is it's actually a silent killer. In fact, over the last decade, inflation has already eaten away at 17% of your cash's value. That's $170 for every $1,000 you've kept under your mattress or in a savings account. The world is changing, and the traditional ways of saving money aren't enough anymore. Warren Buffett, one of the world's greatest investors, has warned about this for years. He believes cash isn't a safe haven, it's a trap. In this video, we're diving into why 2025 is the year cash could destroy your wealth, the surprising risks no one talks about, and how you can avoid making the same mistakes that even experienced investors fall for. Stick around to discover why keeping too much cash might just be the riskiest move you can make right now. Chapter 1. The Cash Trap. A silent killer for your portfolio. Cash often feels like the safest option. It sits there, ready for you to spend or invest at your convenience. But holding on to too much cash can be dangerous. In fact, cash sitting in your bank account slowly loses value over time. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, has long warned against this trap. He calls cash the worst investment. Why? Because, over time, inflation erodes its purchasing power. In 2025, inflation rates are expected to remain higher than usual, meaning the value of your money will decline faster than you might think. $1 today won't buy you the same thing tomorrow. For example, in the last 20 years, the average annual inflation rate has been around 2%, but in recent years, it's been much higher. If you're holding cash, you're effectively losing money. Buffett sees inflation as an invisible tax that affects everyone who isn't actively growing their wealth. While cash can be a great short-term safety net, keeping too much in hand in a low-interest environment could lead to a silent killer for your portfolio. In contrast, Buffett prefers investments that will grow in value, outpacing inflation and delivering consistent returns. He's often said, "Price is what you pay, value is what you get." The more you focus on investing in valuable companies, the less you'll have to worry about cash devaluation. Chapter 2. Inflation. The hidden erosion of your wealth. Inflation is a sneaky enemy. It silently eats away at your savings, making what you have today worth less tomorrow. Over the years, Warren Buffett has been vocal about the impact of inflation. In fact, in his 1977 letter to Berkshire Hathaway shareholders, he said, "The problem with inflation is that it moves so slowly, you don't realize how much it's costing you." In 2025, inflation will likely continue to cause problems for savers. If inflation is at 3%, a $100 bill in your pocket will only be worth $97 next year. The real issue with inflation is that it doesn't just affect your cash holdings, it impacts nearly everything you buy. From groceries to housing, prices increase, leaving cash in your account behind. This is why Buffett urges investors to own assets that appreciate faster than inflation. Stocks, real estate, and businesses are often the best hedge against inflation. A company that earns a profit today and reinvests it for growth will likely outpace inflation over time. If you're relying on cash to preserve wealth, you're letting inflation work against you. Instead, Buffett suggests finding companies with consistent earnings and solid growth potential. These are your best defense against inflation's hidden hand. Chapter 3. The opportunity cost of sitting on cash. Have you ever thought about the opportunity cost of holding too much cash? Opportunity cost is the value of what you miss out on by making one choice over another. When you hold cash, you're missing out on the chance to grow your wealth. Buffett often talks about this concept. He said that the worst thing an investor can do is nothing at all. By holding cash instead of investing, you're essentially locking yourself out of growth opportunities. The opportunity cost can be huge. Take, for example, the stock market. Since 1926, the average annual return for the S&P 500 has been around 10%. If you'd invested $1,000 in the S&P 500 in 1926, by 2025, it would have grown to over $1.6 million. But if you'd kept that money in cash, it would have simply sat there, barely growing, and losing purchasing power. In 2025, many markets are expected to recover and grow, making cash even less attractive. Buffett advises not to let fear of market volatility stop you from investing. Every year you hold cash instead of investing it is a year of missed opportunity. You might not notice it in the short term, but over the long term, the cost adds up. As he said, the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. If you wait too long to invest, your opportunity cost will grow, and the cash you hold today will become worth less tomorrow. If you're finding this information helpful, make sure to subscribe for more tips and insights on how to build your wealth with smart investing strategies. Chapter 4. Cash in the bank. A false sense of security. Cash feels secure. It's there when you need it, easy to access, and it gives a sense of comfort. But Warren Buffett warns that relying too much on cash can be a trap. While it's true that cash can provide liquidity in emergencies, it can also create a false sense of security. Many investors think they're being smart by keeping cash in the bank, but what they don't realize is that cash doesn't grow, it stagnates. In 2025, with the market recovering from the effects of inflation and COVID-19, many investors might feel safer holding onto cash. However, Buffett's approach teaches us that true security doesn't come from holding cash, but from owning companies that can grow and adapt. For example, when the stock market drops, Buffett doesn't panic. He sees it as an opportunity. During the 2008 financial crisis, Berkshire Hathaway bought major companies at discounted prices, knowing they would rebound. Keeping cash in a savings account may seem secure, but it's important to ask, is it growing? Or is it just sitting there, losing value quietly? Buffett says that the real danger isn't the volatility of the market, but the volatility of your own behavior. When you're too attached to cash, you might overreact and miss the opportunities that come from market fluctuations. Chapter 5. The Buffett Dilemma. Cash or compounding? Buffett faces a dilemma: cash or compounding? The truth is, too much cash can slow down compounding. Compounding is the process where your investments generate earnings, and those earnings generate even more earnings. But compounding only works when your money is actively growing. Buffett loves to find companies with a long history of compounding returns. But when he accumulates too much cash, it sits there, earning little to nothing. In fact, Berkshire Hathaway's cash hoard has often been a subject of debate. Buffett himself has acknowledged that holding too much cash is not ideal. In his 2020 annual letter, he said, "We are not satisfied with our cash holdings, but we would rather hold cash than make a bad investment." This is a crucial point. Buffett is willing to wait for the right opportunity rather than settle for a poor investment. But the dilemma remains. Holding cash means foregoing the power of compounding. In 2025, with inflation creeping up, the value of that cash will continue to erode, but the opportunity to compound it into greater wealth will slip away if it's not invested wisely. The lesson here is that cash can be a tool, but compounding is the real key to growing wealth over time. Chapter 6. The Future of Value Investing. Adapt or die in the ever-changing landscape of investing. One thing is certain: value investing must adapt to stay relevant. Warren Buffett has built his empire on the principles of value investing, but the world is changing fast. In 2025, the way we think about cash and value investing will continue to evolve. Traditional value stocks may not be enough to protect you from the dangers of inflation and changing markets. In the past, Buffett's strategy was focused on buying undervalued companies with stable earnings. But today, the focus may need to shift towards companies that can grow in new industries, like technology, clean energy, and digital platforms. Inflation and market volatility are no longer just temporary issues, they're part of the new investing landscape. Buffett himself has acknowledged the shift, saying that investors today need to be prepared to adapt. As he said, the best thing you can do is buy a wonderful company at a fair price. But in 2025, it's just as important to think about buying companies that are positioned to thrive in the future. Value investing isn't dead, it's just changing. If you want to be a successful value investor in the future, you must evolve and find the right opportunities to stay ahead of the curve. If you've enjoyed these insights, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more strategies on smart investing in today's market.